relax, and let's have a chapter chat. I'm your host, Jessica Foster, here with best-selling author Eliza Knight. Eliza, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. I'm excited to be back with you again this year.
You don't have one, but you have two novels out right now. You've been busy.
I have. It's been a little bit crazy, but super fun. So Confessions of a Grammar Queen came out this summer as Eliza Knight, and then my first suspense revenge novel as Michelle Brandon, Rush Week, came out.
So you go by two different names. Tell me a little bit about how that works.
Yeah, so Eliza writes historical fiction and some historical romance. And when I decided I wanted to write a different genre, which is extremely different than what the Eliza Knight name has, I was like, okay, I think I might need to change my name. And my editor was like, yes, please.
You don't always see authors wanting to do such different genres, but you enjoy that.
I do. It's nice to have a little bit of a different streamline, I guess, and also a different way to express myself creatively. I love historical fiction. I love all the research and jumping into those characters, but it was kind of fun to jump outside of that comfort zone and into more like suspense, revenge type novel.
And historical fiction, is that what you started with?
Yes. I've always been obsessed with history ever since I was a child. On the weekends, I would ask my dad to take me to, it was like Errol's back then Blockbuster, to get documentaries of like war zones and things like that. I just have always loved it. So that was just the first thing I started writing. Yeah.
My daughter loves history too. Whenever we're reading together, she's always like, I think I want a biography or, a nonfiction about history.
That's awesome. I think that's great. My youngest is kind of like that too. And she loves going to museums and exploring like the different people's lives and things like that. It's fun to dig into history.
It is fun to dig into history. And when you're writing historical fiction, is it hard to balance the facts and then the fiction?
It definitely can be because there's two reasons. One, I love to do so much research, so it's hard not to put everything into the book. And some of the things just aren't interesting, or it can pull the reader out of the story, and you have to make sure you're focusing on the plot of the story. And then it's also fun because you can sort of like plan your plot around like events in history or what people did or their lives and things like that. So it can be a bit of both.
I just finished Confessions of a Grammar Queen. It was fabulous. And I want to know what compelled you to write this story.
So a number of things. For one thing, I wanted to switch eras. I've never written in the 60s before. And the Equal Pay Act came out in 1963, which was basically a law that said women could expect equal pay and promotion in the workplace. And so I thought, well, that could be really interesting. There's a lot of women who are still struggling today to find equal placement in the workplace and equal pay. And I thought, well, that could be like something fun to explore in the 60s because it's historical. And also I love the clothes and the music of the 60s. And I thought this could be a really interesting time period to dive into. So I was looking around different things that were going on. And I thought, you know what, I would really like to write about someone in publishing. But I didn't want to write a biographical fiction. So my story is actually inspired by two women in publishing. One is Phyllis E. Gran, and she was the first female CEO of a publishing house. However, she got her start in publishing in the 50s, but didn't get that title until 1987, which is much further down the road. But just an inspiring story of how she worked her way up through publishing and finally made that, that goal. And then the other one is Eleanor Gold Packard, and she was known as the grammarian. She was a famous copy editor for The New Yorker, and she had sort of like this mic drop moment of how she got her job with The New Yorker. And that was that she applied and she was rejected, and then she just wasn't going to take no for an answer. So she went to a kiosk in the city, bought a New Yorker copy of the magazine, and went home and edited it. And then she brought it back to them and she said, listen, you already published this. I've copy edited a couple of articles in here. I think maybe you do need me on your team. And they were like, absolutely. And so she became this famous, 50 plus years of working at The New Yorker. And she worked on many wonderful books and articles and things like that, including a copy editing book. It's called Shrunken White. And a lot of people who are writers are like, wait, I know that book. So just like really, really inspirational stories of these women in publishing. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to use that as part of like the backbone of Bernadette Swift, my fictional character's story.
And we need to get those stories out because I think that in society we've come a long way, we still have a ways to go.
Yeah, I agree. And it's inspiring for readers too. I've had a lot that have read the book and come up to me and told me stories of in the workplace now that they're experiencing that is very similar to Bernadette's stories. And it inspires them to maybe take a little step forward as well, or speak out.
That's what I really liked about Bernadette's story. And we don't want to give any spoilers away if you haven't read it yet. But she was brave, and she had to dig deep in some of these circumstances to get to where she wanted to be.
Yeah, she didn't have a very nice boss, and she definitely didn't have very supportive coworkers. They were always trying to thwart her, and I don't want to give any spoilers away, but she definitely gets back at them.
She does. She does. Love seeing them succeed. And I think that this historical fiction piece, it is different than some of the others, like the Queen's Faithful Companion, but there are also some similarities where we see the perspective of an animal.
Yes. So I had so much fun writing the corgi's perspective in the Queen's Faithful Companion, and I thought, I really want to be able to write a dog again, but I just didn't know where I could do that. And while I was on book tour for Starring Adele Astaire, which is when I was sort of starting to plot out Confessions of a Grammar Queen, I was visiting one of my daughters at college, and we went on a little bar crawl. And one of the bars, this dog walked into the bar and by himself, and people were like, "Oh, hey, Frank, so good to see you tonight. Do you want a sip of my water? Do you want a fry?" And this dog's like working the bar. And I was thinking, what is happening right now? And so we were like, what's going on? Where's the dog's owner? And it turns out the owner was outside in like a courtyard part of the bar with another dog of his that was working that crowd out there. And so Frank was this giant Great Dane with a huge personality. And I thought, okay, if I'm going to write about another dog, I think this is my inspiration. I love this dog. He's so cute. And just like the boss. And so since I was plotting this one, I thought, Bernadette could use a companion in the city. And it actually ended up working out perfectly because she is a young woman living in the city on her own, and her parents weren't very comfortable with that. So her brother gifted her this dog that he had been training with the military and for her to take care of while he's overseas. And it just ended up working out perfectly that he could be her companion in the novel. And he has his own, what he considers like his own job while she's out at work, where he kind of like protects the neighborhood. He saves kids from bullies. He saves shop owners from thieves and things like that.
He's absolutely adorable. Like, I want to meet Frank in person.
He is so, the real Frank that I met probably could have done all of these things too.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Out of all of the books that you've written, do you have a favorite?
I have to say, I think Confessions of a Grammar Queen is my favorite. Bernadette has a lot of me in her, so I felt like a companionship to her as I was writing her. Like, her whole love of Jane Eyre and the collection of the Jane Eyre editions of the novels is something that I do as well. If I see a pretty one, I'm buying it. So I have a lot of those. And then, writing down quotes in a notebook of inspiring messages that she's read in books is something that I also do. So little pieces of myself are in this book, and I loved writing her story and sharing it. And I think that's probably why it's my favorite.
What I liked about Bernadette is that I think we could all channel a little bit of that, and it reminds you that you are powerful, and sometimes you have to, take the bull by the horns.
Yeah.
And go in there and ask for the promotion.
And not take no for an answer if you feel like you really deserve it. Or if, like Bernadette, she kind of followed in Eleanor Gold Packard's, inspiring story where she thought, you know what, if you're not going to give me this promotion, I'm going to show you how I deserve it. And she, does something in the book that is a little bit like what Eleanor did in real life with the New Yorker magazine, and it got her the job.
I remember when it was actually when I was in college and studying journalism. And I had a male professor who I took one of my reports in for editing. And he looked at me and he said, he didn't have a lot of critique on the writing of it, right? So he looks at me and he said, "You know what, Jessica, I don't know if you're tough enough for this business."
What?
Yes. And I remember looking at him and I said, "You know what? I think this business needs more of me."
Yeah, I agree. And also, I can't believe he said that.
Right. And it has stuck with me all these years later. Yeah. So I think that we all have a story
Yeah.
Sort of like Bernadette.
I think so. It's funny because when I was chatting with you last year, I mentioned I was also a journalism major for a short while. And one of the reasons that I ended up quitting that major was because I was writing all these obituaries and I was embellishing them to not like lying, but like interviewing and writing these great creative stories of these people's lives. And my professor said, that's not how it's done. You're going to need to change the way you write if you want to do this. And well, that's not the way I want to write. And so I keep thinking, I need to send one of my books that I've written, a biographical fiction about someone's life, and be like, actually, people do like this.
Exactly. And that's the thing. You can't take one thing that happens to you in life and take that to heart and say, oh, I can't ever be successful. You really just have to believe in yourself and prove people wrong.
Right. And if you like something and you feel like you're good at it, then go for it, right?
Yes.
I mean, look at you now. You're a broadcaster and all of this amazing stuff. So I think that's wonderful.
And I didn't have to change who I was at the core.
Yes. And people like you.
Oh, you're sweet. Well, people like you.
Oh, thank you.
And people also like Michelle Brandon, who wrote Rush Week. While we're talking about college, let's transition to that because this one you said is a little scandalous.
It's very scandalous. So as I mentioned, it is way different than any Eliza Knight novel you might read. It's juicy. It's bad girls behaving badly. There's some redemption in the end, but if you're going into it thinking of something wholesome and heartwarming, not going to happen.
Brace yourself.
Brace yourselves. Yes, it's 4 friends, and we have dual timelines. So you see the 4 sorority sisters start out college together, and then by the end of college, they're ruling the school. And they are brought back 5 years after graduation as a revenge plot that someone has been very unhappy with them. And so while they were in college, they were writing all their deepest, darkest secrets and, making the sisters in their house write their deepest, darkest secrets in the spill book during their spill the tea parties. And they buried it in a time capsule that they didn't think was going to be opened for 100 years. Well, it's been opened 5 years 5 years later,
oh, wow.
95 years early. And someone has stolen it, and they're threatening to blackmail them if they don't come back and basically like expose all of their secrets. Well, they don't want to do that. So they've come back to school to find out who took it and to get it back so that they are, their whole lives are not ruined. So it was a really fun and juicy book to write. And my initial draft was super fun to write. And my editor was like, keep going harder on this, like go over the top. And I was like, okay, challenge accepted. So it was fun.
How long did it take you to write Rush Week?
Probably 9 months.
And people say it's about the length of time to have a baby.
It really is. And I had multiple people read it and give me, advice or thoughts and things like that. So then I go back and change things or up the ante as my editor wanted. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting process. And I learned a lot because it was my first foray into a suspense contemporary novel. And I wrote another one that's coming out next year I can tell you about. But I definitely took things I learned from writing that book into writing the second one.
So your next release, is that the suspense?
Yeah, so in May of next year, it's called Trad Wife, and it's another like revenge novel. It's not college age, but they are, women who live in a small coastal town of Florida. I made up the town, but it was so fun to write. And so there is a woman who's come back from the past for revenge, and she's kind of infiltrated this community of trad wives, and they're all kind of being stalked and have to reckon with something that they all were together for in their past.
So you're actually forcing me to go outside of my typical genres. So because I'm going to read Rush Week, I want to read Trad Wife too.
Thank you.
But that is not typically what I read.
I totally get it. I love to read all sorts of genres, but it's so fun when you can challenge yourself to read something new. So yay. I'm glad that I put that into your thoughts.
Historical fiction is one of my favorite
Mine
genres.
too. Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Me too. My first historical fiction novel that I read, if you don't count the classics, actually was a Ken Follett novel when I was 14, Pillars of the Earth. And I have loved historical fiction ever since. He's one of my favorite authors.
And it's nice that you can be inspired by someone.
Yeah.
And you still remember that first bit of inspiration. It never leaves you,
It doesn't. It doesn't. And every time he has a new book come out, I'm brought back to that, place where I fell in love with historical fiction all those years ago. So
let's talk about how you got started, because you said you had a brief stint in journalism.
I did, yeah.
And then how did it go from there?
So after I ended up graduating with a family studies degree, and I think that helped me learn about people, because it's a lot about psychology and family dynamics. And I worked in mental health for a little while, but I always really liked writing. So I would write on the side, and then finally in 2006, I was like, you know what? I'm actually going to try to write for publication. And I started entering contests and taking classes and joining organizations. And my first book that was published in 2008, I actually won the contract through a contest. So that was really, really inspiring and exciting and sort of validating, like writing is what I should be doing. And so that was a historical romance back then. And then my first historical fiction came out in 2014. And it took me about 5 years to write that first historical fiction novel, because I was learning how to do all the research and all the plotting and figuring out how to insert history into the plot and how to, manipulate those things, but make it interesting for readers as well. And that book was called My Lady Viper. And I love that book still. It's a biographical historical fiction about a woman named Anne Seymour, who was the sister-in-law of Jane Seymour, married to Henry VIII. And she is my anti-heroine. So I guess I do kind of have some history with anti-heroines where they're not always nice, but they redeem themselves in the end. But yeah, so I've been writing ever since, a couple books a year at least published. So I've really enjoyed the journey, and I hope I can do it forever and ever.
I think you can do it for as long as you want.
Thank you.
People love your work.
Thank you.
But it's not always easy being an author when you put a release out there. It's like you're really opening your heart. You open it to praise and criticism at the same time.
You definitely do. And I feel like one of the things that new writers always say, give me some advice. And one of the things I always say, besides keep writing and reading and, all of that, is kind of have to grow a little bit of a thick skin, because while you get some amazing reviews and people that love you, there's also going to be the people that don't love you. And, it's really hard not to look at reviews. I always look at them, but then I draw a line at some point where I'm like, okay, now I'm going to stop. People will like it or they will not. It's not it's not up to me. And also it doesn't really help me to read the not so nice ones. I guess you could filter out read the 4 and 5 stars only.
Yes.
But yeah, it's nice to see people appreciate the books as well. Especially because you are, like you said, you're opening your heart up, having a baby, and you put your child out there and people either like or don't like your child. That's horrible.
Well, we experience that a lot in journalism too. You're in the public eye, and you'll have fans, and then you'll have people that aren't fans, and you do kind of have to get a bit of a thick skin sometimes.
Yeah. I always say I'll if I see something that's not what I want to read, I'll give myself a little tiny mourning period, no longer than 24 hours, and that's it. And then I just move on. Because the other thing is too, you just understand, not everyone is going to like everything that you do. And that's okay. That's what makes us great people, right? Is that, everyone can have an opinion, and it doesn't always have to be your opinion. And that would start conversations.
Well, and if everyone liked the same thing, we wouldn't have much creativity.
Right, exactly.
Our bookstores would be pretty
boring.
Bland. Yes.
They really, really would. Totally agree.
What I love about you, Eliza, is that you are such an accessible author.
Thank you.
I feel like you connect with your readers, not just through the pages, but on a personal level as well. You like to go to book clubs. You like to talk with your readers.
I do. I really love to engage with readers. It's part of the job, and part of what makes it so rewarding is that I did all this work by myself. It's very lonely when you're writing, and then getting to go talk about it with people who are enjoying it or who might enjoy it is super, super rewarding.
It is. And what would you say is the best part of the publishing process?
I think the best part of the publishing process is when the book actually gets out there and people are messaging you or sharing it, or, coming to a chapter chat and saying I loved this book, or I really connected with the character, or I had a story sort of like this that happened to me. I like hearing those things. It makes it feel like I shared something with someone, like it's an experience.
In Confessions of a Grammar Queen, I read it and then I also listened to some audio because I wanted to hear Frank's voice in the audio. So what's it like hearing the audio version of your book?
The audio version can be super fun. What I like too is like the publisher will also like give you options of who can narrate. It's not like a broad range. It's usually 2 or 3 people you get to choose from. But I had fun picking Frank's voice, and the narrator of Frank's voice also does some cartoons and children's books. So that was perfect because I think he really did such a good job with the voice. And you get to like hear your character's voice come alive, and you're like, that's it right there. I love that.
How many books do you typically read in a year? Do you even know?
A lot. I don't really know, honestly. But I love road trips because I listen to a lot of audio on road trips. I just binge them like crazy. And then I try to read in like paperback or hardback form at least 1 book a week, and then at least 1 audiobook a week. So if I can get in more than that, I get very excited. But at least that much, yeah.
So I've gotten into audiobooks while I'm doing my makeup.
Yes.
Getting ready for air.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, I can do 2 things at once here.
Awesome. Like I do it while I'm shopping too. I'll put like my little headphone in and I'm shopping, listening to a book. I've also been known to prop it up in the shower if I'm like at a really good part. I'm like, okay, well, I still have to get ready, but I can't like end this chapter. I need to hear what happens.
Oh, I can totally relate to that.
It's so fun. It's great that you can read and access stories without having to sit down. I'm a huge multitasker, so that has been great.
What message do you have to your readers and those listening out there today?
I think my message is dare to dream, go for it. Like, don't let the world hold you back unless it's illegal. Like, don't do anything.
Right.
Always got to add that caveat in there. But I just feel like people should reach for their dreams and just go for it. I mean, we only have this one life to live, and I feel like we all have something special to offer, and don't hold back.
I think that's great advice. And I can even look back at my own life. And there were moments where if I had not dared to dream, where would I be?
Right. Yeah. If I hadn't said, you know what, I really think I'm writing for fun, but I think I really want to do this for publication, I'd probably still be writing for fun because I do it for fun anyway. I have several stories that are just my little stories that haven't seen the light of day that I continue with every once in a while. But I wouldn't be like so fulfilled, I feel like, if I hadn't.
We can't be so afraid of failure that we don't try.
Yeah. And everyone fails. I think you have to fail, fail 10,000 times before you become an expert at something.
And sometimes it could take a while to get a book deal.
It really can.
Keep going.
And even when you are published, sometimes you still get rejections. I still get rejections. But you just don't give up.
Yeah, don't give up. That's fantastic advice.
Yeah.
Don't give up, and don't forget to read Confessions of a Grammar Queen and Rush Week. They're both fantastic. Well, I haven't read Rush Week yet because I just got this copy today, but I cannot wait to dig into that.
I hope you think it's fantastic, even if it's a bit scandalous.
Hey, you know what? We all need a little scandal in our life, right?
I agree.
Eliza, thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure.
We love chatting with you.
Thank you. I love chatting with you too.
You've been listening to Chapter Chat. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Happy reading.